The room was quiet when Emma's phone suddenly lit up near midnight, cutting through the stillness of her small apartment in Portland, and in that single moment, sleep left her completely. She had spent the evening trying to relax, telling herself that some chapters of life were meant to stay closed, especially the ones tied to college memories and people she no longer spoke to. When she glanced at the screen, her breath caught, because the name staring back at her was Daniel Carter, a classmate she had not heard from in months, maybe longer, someone she once shared long lectures, coffee breaks, and unspoken feelings with before life pulled them in different directions. The message was short but heavy, saying he knew it was late and that he needed to say something he should have said a long time ago, and those words alone were enough to make her sit up straight, her heart beating faster as questions rushed through her mind. Emma stared at the phone, unsure whether to feel nervous or hopeful, because time had created distance, but memory had kept emotion alive, and his sudden appearance felt like a door opening without warning. She thought about how they slowly stopped talking after graduation, not because of anger, but because neither of them knew how to hold on, and that silence had slowly turned into acceptance, or at least something close to it. Now, in the quiet of the night, that acceptance cracked, and she felt the weight of everything left unsaid pressing against her chest. She reread the message again, noticing how careful it sounded, how unlike Daniel it was to interrupt someone's night unless it truly mattered, and that realization made her pause instead of replying quickly. Emma set the phone down for a moment, trying to calm her thoughts, telling herself that whatever he wanted to say could change nothing or everything, and both possibilities scared her in different ways. Outside, the city lights glowed softly, and inside, her thoughts moved fast, replaying old moments, shared smiles, and the quiet connection they never named out loud. When she finally picked up the phone again, her fingers hovered over the screen, and she understood that replying meant stepping back into a story she thought had already ended, but not replying would mean choosing silence once again. With a steady breath and a cautious heart, Emma typed a simple response, asking if everything was okay, knowing that the answer waiting on the other side could open emotions she had carefully tucked away, and as she sent the message, she realized that the night had already changed, and whatever Daniel needed to say would not be easy to hear, but it was something she was finally ready to face. Daniel stared at his phone, the glow of the screen reflecting the quiet of his small Seattle apartment. The city outside wrapped in darkness and stillness. He had typed and erased the message countless times before finally pressing send, each word carrying the weight of months of regret and unspoken feelings. Memories flooded him, late-night study sessions, shared laughter over coffee, the way Emma's eyes seemed to understand him even when he stumbled over his words, the long walks across campus where silence never felt empty because she was there. He had spent years convincing himself that keeping quiet was the braver choice, that his feelings were better left unspoken so he wouldn't risk rejection or complicate their friendship, but the truth gnawed at him constantly, a quiet ache he could no longer ignore. As Emma's reply appeared on his screen, expressing surprise and concern, Daniel felt a mix of relief and nervous anticipation. He typed slowly, carefully, his fingers hovering over the keys as he tried to capture months of emotion in a few sentences. He explained that he had realized he could no longer carry the regret of silence, that something important had been left unsaid for too long, and that he needed to speak the truth, even if it changed nothing or everything. Emma's brief response, asking what he meant, made his chest tighten, and he hesitated, knowing that the next words would reveal the feelings he had hidden behind smiles and casual conversations for years. He finally admitted that he had cared about her more than he had ever confessed, that he had believed she deserved someone braver, someone better, and so he stayed quiet, thinking it was for the best. As the words left him, he felt both fear and liberation, realizing that the bond they shared might never be the same, yet some part of him had needed this honesty to breathe again. Emma read his message slowly, her mind flashing back to the last day of college, the long goodbye, the lingering hug, and the unspoken tension that had always hovered between them. Her heart ached with the realization that she had imagined the connection they shared, wondering if he had felt the same way, and now the truth hit her with a mix of pain and warmth. She responded, confessing that she had waited for him to speak, that she had often felt unimportant, and the exchange became a careful unwrapping of hidden emotions, each message building a fragile bridge between past and present. Daniel replied almost immediately, affirming that she had always been important to him, that the feelings were real, and that he could no longer hide them. As the night stretched on, their conversation flowed with memories, laughter, and a tender sadness, neither of them making promises, just sharing truth, and Emma felt her chest tighten with both fear and hope, understanding that this moment could shift the course of their relationship forever. The city outside remained quiet, but inside their hearts, a storm of emotions raged softly, reshaping memories into possibilities, and as Daniel sent his last message for the moment, admitting he didn't know what would happen next, Emma realized that honesty had opened a door she thought had closed, and both of them were standing at its threshold, wondering if the night's revelation could mark a new beginning or simply a beautiful, fleeting confession. Emma's hands trembled as she read Daniel's next message, the words hitting her with a force she hadn't expected. He cared about her more than he had ever admitted. He had stayed quiet because he thought she deserved someone braver, and now he could no longer carry that silence. Her mind raced through every memory, every laugh, every shared coffee, and long walk, realizing that all along, the connection she had felt had been real, mutual, and quietly alive even when distance and time made her doubt it. Tears pricked her eyes, a mixture of relief, sadness, and longing, because finally the truth was out, but years had passed and life had moved on. She typed back with a trembling heart, confessing that she had waited for him, believing she wasn't important enough, and the simple honesty made the conversation heavier yet more intimate than anything they had ever shared. Daniel's reply came swiftly, full of warmth and sincerity, telling her that she had always mattered and still did, and although he didn't know what this would mean for the future, he couldn't hide his feelings anymore. Emma leaned back against her pillows, letting the emotions wash over her, the quiet of the night amplifying the intensity of their exchange. Each message built a bridge over the months of silence, and with every word, the distance that had grown between them seemed to shrink, leaving only the raw, unspoken emotions that neither had dared voice before. The mixture of longing and relief made her heart ache, but it also gave her hope that the past might somehow intersect with the present in a way that could change everything. She realized that the courage Daniel had found to speak his truth opened a space where her own feelings could breathe again, where years of hesitation and missed opportunities no longer had the final say. Their conversation, though conducted through a phone screen, carried a depth of emotion that felt almost tangible, a quiet intimacy that had been missing in their lives for far too long. As she typed and deleted her words, paused, and typed again, she recognized that what mattered now wasn't what had been lost, but the honesty they were sharing in the moment, the fragile chance to acknowledge something neither had dared name before. Daniel, on the other side of the screen, felt the same weight of emotion, the vulnerability and relief mingling in his chest, knowing that confession had brought them closer than weeks or months of casual texts ever could. They exchanged memories, small jokes, and soft confessions, each message carrying both the thrill and fear of honesty, the possibility that the connection they had once treasured could evolve into something more. Emma's heart, tight and cautious, began to open again, realizing that late-night messages could hold more power than face-to-face conversations, that the quiet hours of the night offered a space for truth to emerge without interruption. They both felt the tension between what had been unspoken for so long and the fragile hope that this night might mark a turning point, a moment where regret was replaced with understanding, where longing found a voice, and where the past and present intertwined in a way that was painfully beautiful. As their conversation lingered, neither pressed for promises or certainty, but simply shared what had been hidden, allowing vulnerability to shape the dialogue and trust to grow with every keystroke. In that quiet exchange, Emma felt seen, remembered, and understood in ways that words often failed to capture, and Daniel felt the weight of his honesty lift, replaced by the warmth of her response and the silent acknowledgement that what they had mattered deeply. The night stretched on, filled with emotion, and although neither knew what the morning would bring, both sensed that this conversation had shifted something fundamental, a recognition of feelings long buried, a mutual longing that had survived distance, and the quiet possibility of a future where those feelings could finally breathe. As they paused for the moment, letting the messages settle, Emma and Daniel each held their phones a little closer, hearts racing with the knowledge that late-night confessions had a way of reshaping life, that truth shared with courage could create a connection stronger than time, and that sometimes, the right words spoken at the right moment, even years later, could awaken hope, desire, and the quiet thrill of something profoundly real. Emma and Daniel continued texting late into the night, the conversation flowing naturally as if the months of silence had never existed, each message carrying a mix of laughter, gentle nostalgia, and the soft ache of feelings long unspoken. They shared little memories, inside jokes from college, moments of quiet connection, the way they used to walk across campus and talk about everything from dreams to silly everyday things, and with every line, the bond they had once felt seemed to grow stronger, more real, and more immediate. There were pauses, moments where neither knew what to say next, but the silence between messages felt safe, a shared space where honesty could exist without pressure or expectation. Emma found herself laughing softly at his teasing remarks, and then her chest would tighten at the tender confessions he slipped in between the humor, the subtle acknowledgement of how much he had missed her and how much she had mattered to him all along. Daniel, on the other side, felt a mixture of relief and anticipation, relief that he had finally voiced what had stayed in his heart for so long, and anticipation, a nervous excitement, at seeing how she would respond, knowing that her replies carried the weight of her own guarded emotions and unspoken longing. Neither rushed the conversation, it was a delicate dance of sharing, listening, and feeling, as if the phone screen had become a bridge over years of missed chances, regret, and quiet yearning. As the hour grew late, Emma sent a final message for the night, simple but filled with meaning. She was glad he had told her, and that whatever happened next, this moment mattered. Daniel read it carefully, his heart swelling with warmth and a tender hope he had not felt in years, and he replied that it mattered to him too, more than she could know. They didn't make promises, didn't define the future, but the honesty between them had created a quiet intimacy, a shared understanding that the connection they had never fully explored was still alive and waiting. Emma placed her phone on the nightstand and lay back against her pillows, feeling the heaviness of emotion settle into a calm, almost peaceful excitement, the kind that comes from knowing that truth has been spoken and received with care. Daniel did the same, smiling at his phone as he reflected on the conversation, realizing that though nothing in their daily lives had changed overnight, something fundamental had shifted inside them both. A door that had long been closed was now slightly ajar, allowing the possibility of something more, something deeper, to enter. They drifted toward sleep with thoughts of each other lingering in their minds, hearts lighter yet fuller, understanding that some stories do not end with neat conclusions but with quiet beginnings, moments of courage, and the willingness to be vulnerable. As night turned toward morning, both felt the thrill of potential, the sense that this late-night confession could be the start of a journey they had never dared to take, a path where shared honesty and emotion might lead them back to each other in a way that was gentle, real, and profoundly moving. The city outside remained quiet, unaware of the emotional currents flowing between two hearts connected by words, memories, and a long-suppressed longing now finally acknowledged. In that quiet, tender night, Emma and Daniel discovered that sometimes, all it takes is one brave message, one honest confession, to reopen doors thought closed, to rekindle feelings, and to give hope that what was once lost can begin anew, fragile but full of promise, leaving them both with the thrilling possibility that their story was far from over.